ahead and jump right in, and we will send the recording to those who weren't able to attend. And if more people hop on halfway through, no problem. So Lauren, take it away.
Hello, everyone. I see Maria, Nancy, and Elided. I'm sorry if I didn't say your name correctly. I want to welcome you for taking the time to come out and speak with us regarding Gemini vouchers. I want to introduce to you our panelists that are here to help answer your questions, and along with my co-host Connor Bush, which is our business development manager. Nadja Dow, which is our vocational in-house counselor, as well as the management for our voucher division. David Duran, who is our supervisor for our voucher division, and Eric Gardner, which is our marketing manager. Mostly, I just wanted to have this time to have Nadja kind of give you info and background on her and kind of give you her credentials along with her experience, and even let us know why vouchers and why becoming a vocational counselor was something you chose to do.
Is that my first question, or do you have an actual question?
Yes.
A little bit of my background. So, not to date myself, I've been in the industry for over 20 years. I am an IVE, which is extinct at this point, which was the initial vocational evaluator, as well as a multilingual rehabilitation counselor. And I am originally from New York, brought up in Venezuela. I speak 5 languages. And I think that's always super exciting because you get to deal with such a diverse background. I've been with Gemini as the in-house counselor for 3 years, and loving every part of it. Have definitely a passion for injured workers, and definitely think that it's a super needed service for them. I mean, it's quite daunting to deal with a workers' comp case. Can you imagine? It's also a very daunting process to deal without a vocational rehabilitation counselor and fight the fight if issues transpire. So very excited to take care of them from beginning to end.
Okay, now next question.
Excellent. I always love to hear the 5 languages, and then usually people are like, well, what about this one? And almost every time he's got it covered. So get into brass tacks here. Who qualifies for a voucher, and what is the process during the work comp case that follows?
Okay, so any person who is injured on the job and has some type of impairment rating, and they've identified that there's some kind of restriction that doesn't allow them to go back to their UNC, usual and customary position, or if the employer has not been given a modified alternate position, which is within an 85% wage loss and comparable in salary and on a permanent basis, anybody who has that criteria qualifies for a voucher. Now, of course, you're not asking me about post-2013, pre-2013, but as far as post-2013, which is, the ones that you see more often, the unicorns are now the pre-2013, they're entitled to 2 benefits: the RTW benefit, which is from the state for $5,000. And of course, David and I work very hard to make sure that that's the first thing we take care of for the injured worker, because we know how important that benefit is.
Got it. And then, so the second part of that, right? So the injured worker qualifies for that voucher. It's sent over to us. What happens from there?
You mean the internal process?
Yes, please.
I'd love David to get an opportunity to also talk about that, because he is a supervisor and he is dealing with the internal aspect of it.
All right, David. So I'm an attorney. My injured worker qualifies for a voucher. What do I do? I send it to Gemini, I assume, and what happens from there?
Great question. And what happens is, once we receive the referral here at Gemini, whether it's by email, whether it's by fax, whether it's by mail, or even by a phone call, what we do is we respond confirming that we did receive the voucher referral. And in that response, what we specify is that we are going to contact that injured worker within 1 business day. That's our commitment. We then reach out to the injured worker. We explain to them their benefits, so that way they're clear on what they're going to get on that voucher, and also our services. We present to them the benefits of using a counseling service like ours. And from there, once we get their buy-in and they sign the voucher, we then move forward with helping them make sure that they get the most out of all the benefits that they're entitled to get.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Nadia, how does Gemini, in your own words, say that we empower the injured worker with our voucher program?
That's a great question. Here's the essential answer to that. We work with every single post-secondary accredited school. Every single post-secondary accredited school. That means from here to Timbuktu, whether it's online or in classroom, we're identifying the passion of the injured worker, identifying what they're interested in pursuing, seeing what the next step is for that, and actually being proactive with all the schools and programs to make sure that it's not just cake decorating or floral arrangement, because everybody comes from a very unique background and you can't fit everybody into one square peg. That is why I always tell clients and rather attorneys, the giving the injured worker the power means not sending them to one specific school. Rather, why would you send them to a school when what they claim as a counselor is really an internal admin person that's only working for that particular school? So do you really think that that person's going to say, hey, I wasn't able to place them in our school, so let's help them find somewhere else? No. But when you have a counselor, the counselor is working on the behalf of that client from beginning to end. And so therefore, you're identifying the best program, taking into consideration their background history, their physical restrictions, their educational background, their demographic, where they live. Why are you sending them 50 miles away when there's one right around the corner that's approved for them? So when you give that power to the client and get them excited and let them know that they've got multiple options, that's the best way to go. When you're sending them to a particular school, if that school doesn't have that program, that person doesn't know that they can't select anything else. And where do they go from there? And remember, under the $6,000, there is money. So when you're giving them choice and really working with them individually and a la carting that program specifically for that person's needs, now you're giving them power.
That makes sense. No, I think when you make it that black and white, right? When you say it that way, hey, if that's not for them, you give them the choice. The choice is the power. So great answer. I was happy to hear that. You answered a few of our next questions, but so the attorney has the voucher, they send it over, empower the injured worker, they can pick whatever they want. Does that voucher expire?
So there is always an expiration on the voucher. Usually it's 2 years as of the date of injury or 5 years as of the 5 years as of the date of injury and 2 years as of the PNS. Now, there could be a scenario where if, let's say, I've been able and David's been able to overturn and get a new voucher, maybe they're in a psych ward, maybe they've been out of country, maybe they've come across, pardon me? Hello? Oh, hi. The average voucher is going to expire, and usually on the last page, it tells you the day that it was executed, and you can identify the time from there when the voucher expires. The RTW, which is very important, is only for 1 year. And so it's a separate benefit, and you never want to lag, because I always tell the client, you never know from one day to another if the state is going to have that money. We don't like to prolong that. The injured worker can use that money because, as you know, the 1,000 is, upon receipt, usually the insurance company is asking, provide us a receipt to show that we're reimbursing them for this and that. And so if they don't have the money out of pocket, the 5,000 certainly comes in handy for them. So there is an expiration to the voucher. There is an expiration to the RTW. Everything is very time sensitive, and we do not lag.
Awesome. No, that's great to hear. Ellie, did you have a question at this time or not yet?
No, not yet, but I will later.
Okay, perfect. Lauren, I think you've got a question next.
Yes, for what are some examples that schools have done during the pandemic, to adjust to the different COVID standards that have been placed on California?
So fortunate for us, we've been really proactive and we've been able to work with the schools as far as what schools are open, what programs are open, being very careful with the client and the injured worker. A lot of them are hoping to either, if you've got somebody who really is only going to learn from a classroom setting, then we're going to wait it out to see. And we're always keeping in time, making sure that the voucher doesn't expire and they have enough time to take that program. A lot of them are opting for online programs. There's there's programs for anything and everything from billing to medical to psych courses. So there's a lot of things that people can do online at their speed, at their time, and still be able to work part-time, full-time, take care of their, and not put themselves in a classroom setting when they're concerned about COVID. So we have not missed a beat with that and have found that, more than ever, they're wanting to take the courses online or, if a program is open, they're really looking forward to that next phase in life.
And so for the most part during COVID, Gemini has had no issues with finding programs that really fit our injured workers, correct?
Not at all. Not at all. Again, we're paying attention to what their interests are, paying attention to their restrictions, because hopefully the idea is not to re-injure themselves, working with them and giving them the options and saying, okay, if you want to do an online and you're interested in this, let's go for it. If you want to do an in-classroom, the one that we've identified that's open during COVID and is following the restrictions for protection of you are these schools. And just working with the schools and identifying which courses are open and what they're doing to protect the injured worker as well.
And just to expand on that, just to really make it pretty black and white and very clear here, all those things that you described that we've been doing as a company or that you've been doing really comes down to being a voc rehab counselor versus a school. Can you just hit a few of the big differences? I know obviously if you send someone to a school and the school closes, they're out of luck, but as a voc rehab counselor, what are some of the things that title allows you to do that a school cannot?
So if there's a fire, if the school closes down for fraudulence, whatever it is, I'm sure we've all experienced and heard that, through Work Comp Central, then the counselor is able to fight the fight and say, hey, we utilize a school that is post-secondary accredited and on the ETPL list, and this school has not been able to do that, so therefore you need to provide the client a new voucher.
Okay, so you can fight for them to get a new voucher. I haven't heard of that being a possibility.
Under particular circumstances, absolutely, because
okay.
If they're not able to do it the original way that was intended through a school and by the way, this is the thing, is we're paying attention, and David is very good about making sure the team does that. Just because we have familiarity with the school doesn't mean that we're not checking every single day when we're enrolling that client to make sure that that school is still up with their credentials, they're still active, and they're still authorized.
Okay.
If not, we can't work with them.
No, that's good to know that we're doing that double, triple checking, because a lot of the times, like you said, you read the news headlines and you hear the horror stories. So I'm glad we're on top of it. Lauren, did you have another question from the audience next?
And just so that I can expand on that one question also. So again, I want the attorneys to know, listen, there's great schools out there, no doubt, but those schools are working for themselves. They're not working for the injured worker in the sense that they're going to explore options beyond their capacity. And so I always tell people, think about your dad or your mom in this situation. And you send them to a school and they have cake decorating, floor arrangement, fuel injection, and computer repair. And those are the choices. What happens to that injured worker, your client, who you're hoping is going to be taken care of from A to Z? You're not going to have to hear from other than thank you so much for providing us such an excellent opportunity. And, you know, I've gotten a new job and would you like to come to our graduation? What happens to that injured worker? They're left in limbo. Maybe they fall off the tracks. Maybe they're not reaching out to you and saying, I didn't like that school. And maybe that school is not even telling you, hey, we lost them because they just didn't sign up with us. They're in limbo. You want to make sure that that person who is going through this daunting process has every opportunity afforded to them. So when we're doing assessments, we're identifying multiple factors and multiple opportunities and having them select which one they want. That's the difference between using a school and using a counselor.
No, and that's huge. I think you nailed it right there. If it's your mom or your dad, and your dad's a veteran police officer, and now his only choice is floral arranging, that doesn't sound like a good time.
Yeah. And you
Lauren, have at it.
And attorneys should want their injured worker right to have the best outcome, because in the end, our goal is to really provide that customer service that we helped provide to your office during the work comp case, to the injured worker during their voucher process. So, in turn, our goal is, make them happy. They're happy with you. They're happy with us. Maybe that will help out with even some possibility of referrals back to your office. So this full, base of customer service on the injured worker is really just trying to continue the customer service that you provided for them during their work comp case as well. We want to make sure that we make you look good for referring us. And, that's a big priority for us as well, not just ourselves, but, to make our recommendation from you worth it to the injured worker.
Yeah, we're an extension of your office.
Yes.
We're an extension of your office. That's the other thing is sometimes attorneys feel like, okay, well, I'm doing my due diligence. I'll give them 3 choices and here's 3 names and let the client, contact. We get a lot of those calls where they eventually go with us because we handled them correctly and they feel very comfortable. But again, once the attorney suggests a good counseling service, the idea is that you're never going to have to hear from that client because we're taking care of them from beginning to end and we're communicating with them continuously. And so the only time you're going to hear is, something good that will ultimately hopefully lead to a referral because you guys are the rock stars. We're the extension to your office.
That something you just said right there, beginning to end, how quickly from the attorney sending over the demo sheet or the CNR, how soon do we reach out with someone to contact that injured worker?
So like David said before, we contact them within a 24-hour period.
Oh, okay.
The way that it's done is, I'll explain the benefits, explain what their entitlement is, explain all of the resources and everything that's going to happen. And then they're also assigned to a case manager. So they're never without the supervisor, the case manager, and the counselor. Okay. We're working hand in hand, and the speed of when they enroll is completely up to them, right? The first thing that we do immediately, whether they've enrolled or not, that's the other thing. Schools will not take care of the client's RTW and assist them with everything unless they're enrolled because they're not working for free. We don't believe in that kind of mentality. They want the client to sign up with them. What we think is, look, let's take care of your RTW because you're now afforded a benefit that's going to open up so many opportunities for you.
Can you break down the RTW a little bit just for the sake of the recording?
Yeah, so the RTW is the return to work benefit that the state is allocating for post-2013 injured workers. And it's a one-time situation where well, not one time because you can have multiple vouchers and who knows, it just depends on how the attorney has handled that. But the state is going to send that client $5,000. And that money is used however they see fit. Nobody's getting a percentage of that. And that money is for them to use however they want. They don't owe it back. And it's an extra opportunity to give them the idea of the benefit was if the person is not working and they're working with a counselor, maybe they need extra gas money or extra rent money or whatever it is. So it's giving them some substantial pocket money to be able to function
Okay.
and participate.
Ellie has a question.
Hi.
Hi. So this kind of just triggered a question for me.
Sure.
We have a client who just recently, we CNR'd her case and she is allowed she qualified for the voucher. However, she's been a little difficult and doesn't want to actually do the classes.
Okay.
We did mention the return to work fund. And is there a way of just going straight to the RTW, or does she have to go through classes?
No,
No.
she does not have to go to classes. We'll still process their RTW before we even start exploration. The minute that we get their initials so that we're, allowed to do that on their behalf, David and the team and I are submitting that voucher to the state so that hopefully within a short amount of time, with COVID, it's been a delay. You're looking at about 3.5 to 4 weeks, depending on work days and vacations and holidays, and if they're there, for that client to get that money.
So is there a cap to the money, or is it 5,000?
So the 5,000 is the cap for the RTW.
Oh,
Not the voucher that's separate,
mhm.
that's $6,000 that the insurance company is hoping you don't use, because then you're saving them $6,000. So if you've got a difficult client that doesn't want to go to a class, maybe the opportunity is with the counselor and the counseling division to get them excited. Because if I were to tell you, I'll give you a perfect example. I had a 76-year-old female, Persian, didn't speak a word of English, connected to her husband at the hip. She did not want anything. She wanted her RTW, and that was it. I spoke to her and I'm hearing dogs in the background. And I'm like, wow, how many dogs do you have? Oh, that's our life. We've got 5 dogs because we were never able to have kids. Well, why aren't you doing the doggy day grooming? You can do that? Yes. I never thought about that. I could do that with my husband? Absolutely. Or why aren't you doing social behavioral for dog training? And funny enough, she decided to go with that. No loss to her. And I was actually one of their patrons until my dog passed away. So it's a beautiful story. So, sometimes it's that they don't realize they're thinking school.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go to school. Training? I'm not going to do that. I need a job. Well, that's a perfect opportunity for an online program, because it allows them to be able to keep on doing their job and be able to do online at their leisure, at their pace, and be able to extend a wider net of opportunity. And especially with remote now as it is, and I think everybody's realized that, there's so many companies that are paying so much money for someone to work from home as a client support rep, as a supervisor, and forget about bilingual, you're getting much more money. But I always tell the client, have you thought about the time that you called Amazon? What's the first thing that they ask? Spanish or English? Oh, that's right. The bank. What's the first thing that they ask? Spanish or English? There's so many opportunities. And maybe they're thinking that they're not gonna want to pursue a training class because they need to work, or maybe because they're a mother at home that needs to be at home. And so once you expand their horizons about what their opportunities could be and create that passion for them, now you've got them. Now they're interested.
Yeah, and part of the voucher, correct, too, can be used for equipment. So say if they don't want to do an actual school, they can apply for maybe like a computer little like Word document class.
Yeah.
Which enables them to write off their new laptop.
Well,
so
I mean, $1,000 is reimbursed for them for a computer or whatever is related. If somebody's interested in cosmetology, I can still identify that they need to be able to have a computer so that they can do their makeup montage, website, whatever, but maybe they want to spend the money for cosmetology. And that's not including the $500 that they get for extra expenses. So the way I tell the client is, think that you've got $1,500 out of that $6,000 that you can use to create your own office environment, to do whatever you need. So yeah, it's phenomenal. And there's so many people out there who haven't taken opportunities to do applications. Like they may know computers, but a certificate in computer application now is pushing them forward with that employer to have, you know, proof in the pudding that they've got some kind of certification.
Okay.
Did I do okay with that one?
Yes.
Yes.
One of my favorites is I had an older gentleman, you know, he's retired. He's like, I don't want to do anything. I'm like, what do you do in your free time? He's like, I go to wineries and I like to fly drones. I'm like, hey, you can get drone class, start doing drone flyovers of wineries, sell the footage to the winery and drink for free. Now the guy, he's like, you know, 68 years old, just goes to wineries and plays with his drone, but the state paid for it. And that was a class. So
Video
really
editing,
get creative.
Photoshop, all of that, like, you know,
Yeah.
that can be done just even for social media, you know, that's part of our
Selling
work
on
now
eBay,
too.
whatever, exactly.
Ellie,
You know,
what
you
I tell
find-
people is send us your hardest, most difficult, weirdest ones, if that's how you want to test it. Because I mean, not you know, I don't need to brag about her anymore, but Nadja likes a challenge, and she usually finds a fit for just about everybody. So if you think it's too hard, send it over. We'll take care of them.
You know
Okay.
what it is? It's thinking of their transferable skills.
Yeah.
Not just looking at the previous job they had.
Mm-hmm.
But where's your passion? Where do you see yourself 2 years from now? Well, I've always wanted to do this, but I never thought I could have the opportunity. Now's the perfect time.
Suzanne had a great question. I do a lot of brain injury cases in which individuals cannot go back to work. Can they still get counseling to help them with things such as using a computer at home? Do they get the RTW money even though they can't probably go back to work?
Absolutely. The requirement is not for them. The idea of this is to give them an opportunity to return to suitable gainful employment, an opportunity. But that doesn't stop a person from living their life. So whatever they choose to do after that training is whatever they choose to do. That's not part of what we're looking at. Of course, if they want to get a job, David and myself and the team are always working with school placement divisions to make sure that their resumes, mock interviews, everything is done. So it's really up to the client. But, you know, like Connor said, it's a passion. Maybe now's the time to at least learn basic computers. You wouldn't believe how many people are out there that don't even know how to do that. Or maybe they've got bilateral carpal tunnel and they need to use Dragonware. Why not have a class to teach you how to use that? It's an opportunity for them to be more enhanced, whether and more connected to the community, church, being able to function on Zooms, having, you know, Zooms with their family. It's whatever it is that's going to make them feel more prepared to be able to proceed with whatever they want to do.
Yeah, one of my favorite stories that Nadja tells when we visit clients is that one injured worker that we had that was unfortunately diagnosed with a fatal disease, correct? You want to explain that story, Nadja? It's such a good one.
Okay, so, you know, I this attorney's office and this attorney was saying, listen, the money is no longer available. Essentially what happened was this particular counseling firm took their money and the client is no better off for the wearer. They got their RTW, but they don't have a training program. And I said, well, what happened? And they said, well, it was very difficult. The injured worker had AIDS. So I said, listen, I'm happy to help you out with that. I have a passion for injured workers. Too bad that the counseling firm took the monies up front. That's not the way we do things. We don't always take the 600. We also work with the programs to give, you know, whatever it is and make sure that the client's taken care of. So when I'm asked how much, well, the cap is 600, but it doesn't mean you have to use the 600 all the time. And we definitely don't skim it off the top. We make sure that they're taken care of first and foremost. And so I said, can I have an opportunity to talk to the injured worker on a three-way with you and that person? I was in the law office, and such a beautiful speaking voice, such a beautiful spirit. So, you know, you could hear that he felt he didn't have anything to give. I connected him with the suicide hotline in Hollywood and asked them if they had a paid internship where he could be a crisis person and he didn't have to leave his home because he was concerned about his physical appearance And he now not only gets to work with the same community, but he gets to be able to fulfill himself because he feels worthwhile. It's a win-win either way. You're going to make me cry, and I don't want that.
Oh, I'm
But
sorry.
it's a win-win.
No, it's
right?
such a great story. That's what really like captures my heart when you tell me these stories, because we're able to give these people,
I'm
you
usually
know,
not this emotional, but during
Yeah.
COVID and everything, you just think of everything, and you think of these people that feel like they're on their last hind leg and they have nowhere to turn. This is the proof in the pudding. When you put somebody where they feel that they can contribute, you're now reigniting their spirit.
No, it's incredibly powerful. We do have a question in the chat. This office has a client, they just received a voucher, and the client made a comment they want to become a notary. Do we do programs like that as well? Like more like career credential type programs?
Yeah, any program that's post-secondary accredited and is on the ETPL list is game for us.
What is the ETPL list? Can you expand on that?
Okay, so it's an eligible training provider list. Essentially what it is a list of all the programs that have been approved and gone through these curriculum accreditations, because as you know, it's more short and more intense. So you're not looking at a 4-year college or a 2-year, and it allows the adults that are displaced or injured workers to be able to look and see whatever programs and whatever avenues they're interested in. So we follow those guidelines very strictly. Because we never want to set them up for anything but success. So when we're looking at those kind of programs, that's what we're paying attention to. Did I answer your question, or was there another part?
Oh, no, you definitely did. Thank you. Lauren, what do you got for us next?
I wanted to know, what suggestions do you have for attorneys to help, you know, ensure maybe more successful process for the injured worker to do their voucher? Like, is there any tips that you recommend for them to maybe make the timeline shorter, or to, you know, get started on this so that the injured worker can receive these benefits a little faster? Any tips that you can share?
Sure. And before that, I just wanted to go back to the person that asked about the notary.
Yeah.
Now, let's say that they want to be a real estate agent, right? We know that that only costs $300 for the licensing. Am I going to suggest that they use this voucher that could be for something more advantageous and more expensive for them, and tell them maybe they can use their $5,000 for that? Or do they want to use it for this? Because as you know, they're entitled to one program, one kind of training. It's not like a grocery list where it's like, hey, I've got an extra $200. Can I do this? Insurance company is not going to say yes. Their only obligation, for the most part, I won't say they're not going to say yes, but for the most part, is to oblige with what they're obligated to do, no more, no less. As far as the tips, yes.
Oh, sorry. Before we go off, on the notary question, client missing amputee, missing left limb, Spanish speaking, none of that should impact us, right? We're still clear skies ahead to help them out.
No, absolutely.
Perfect.
You're paying attention
And then,
to
sorry, go ahead.
You're paying attention to their restrictions, right? Like if they have bilateral carpal tunnel, you're not going to give them, maybe they want to be in cosmetology or be a hairdresser. I don't want to deprive them of their passion. I'd say, well, you know, how about we go under the guise that you're going to be a hairdresser owner? And this way you can oversee other people and hopefully not do the physical aspects yourself, but still stay in the arena, you know? And they're like, oh, wow, I never thought about that. I always tell a person, think about your supervisor and what their responsibilities are. Reach for the sky, because it doesn't have to be an entry-level position. If you've got transferable skills and you've got that capacity, you can do whatever you want. As far as the tips that you were asking about, so it's always important to write that in the body of the CNR. There's a section that, you know, where you're identifying, this is what I'm requesting on behalf of the client. Make sure that you state that they're entitled to the voucher so that there's no question. It's been discussed, it's been agreed to. And I'd love David to also, because David sees the CNRs all the time as well, to maybe add a couple of other things that you think would be advantageous when we're getting them.
Yes, definitely. So yeah, when we get the referrals, you know, some things that we find advantageous is, you know, any contact information for the injured workers, email addresses as well. With technology now and everyone at home, and schedules and everything else. That always helps. Yeah, and any changes to addresses as well, that always helps, because we definitely want to make sure that when we claim those $5,000 for the injured workers, that they get mailed to the right address. So all that always helps. And yeah, that's all I can think of as far as I know.
Thanks,
And as
David.
far as tips internally, I think that attorneys forget. Sometimes they're not proactive about the voucher because it's really something that is not going to be, they're not getting any percentage of it. But honestly, to be able to get them in contact if they're waiting around, how sometimes they're antsy. "Oh, when is the money going to come? I'm here. I'm just sitting around doing nothing." Perfect opportunity to get them in contact with a counselor right away. Get them excited about their next phase in life.
You're saying while they're waiting for the case settlement, correct?
Absolutely. If you know that person's going to be entitled to a voucher, and you know that that's supposed 2013 and they're going to be entitled to their RTW, again, we're looking and we're communicating with the adjuster to make sure that their fulfillment of the voucher is adhered to, as well as all the reimbursements. So the sooner that you can get the client started, if you know that that's going to be an agreement and you know that they're going to be entitled. And again, the body of the report of the CNRs, many times the verbiage is not there. And then there's also the 2 columns, right, on page 6, that kind of says, your initial, the client initials, never initial the vocational, never take that away, leave that blank. And just be as tight with the verbiage as possible, based on the communication that we've had with the adjuster of the defense, injured worker, future medical earnings have been taken care of, blah, 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 future, whatever, and entitled to vocational rehabilitation SJDB voucher. Then it's right. If they've done it, there's no need to fight anything. If you haven't done it, we've been able to get vouchers for CNRs that don't have that verbiage, with the understanding that, hey, it's a post 2013, it's an automatic. But it always makes it easier.
Yeah, so that kind of ties in with what Suzanne was asking. She says she has a case, let me see. She has a case that was a STIP 100, but no CNR yet. It was in 2015. Is that too late to get the voucher benefits? Is there a statute of limitation on these, or should I just look at all my older cases to make sure everyone received the benefits?
And then Ellie, I see you next had a question as well. I didn't forget.
So remember that there is a voucher expiration. It's usually 2 years as of the PNS or 5 years as of the date of injury. But if you've identified and there's no CNR, it's not too late. You can still fight the fight, and we're here to help you fight the fight. We've been able, again, I gotta brag on David. Boy, he's a tough cookie when it comes to those adjusters. He may look very nice and very gentle, but he certainly knows his way around getting the adjusters to give the client what they need.
Good, because they can be mean sometimes. I know that for sure.
It's absolutely. And we also, if there's an issue with anything, we'll always let the attorney know we're looking to file a DOR because of this, that, and the other. But otherwise, we scare them. They need to know that they're being compliant. We're not easily pushed around.
So Suzanne, if you haven't had a CNR yet on a case, then yes, you still have the opportunity to add that as part of their settlement.
Absolutely. And if you do have a CNR and it's still within the 5 years and the 2 years and everything seems to mesh, like I said, post 2013, it's a use it or lose it. It's not allowed to be settled as part of the case. So you can still go back and say, hey, and the adjuster may say, well, the attorney never asked for it. And I'm like, okay, let me take care of that. Ring, ring, attorney, can you ask for that? Guess what? They're asking for it now. Give it to us.
And how? Ellie, you're up.
Okay, so for the voucher, I think I've had a lot of information. I kind of understand how that works. How does the return to work fund even work? Because up until recently, I didn't even realize that that was separate from the voucher. So how does it even get calculated how much a client will be able to get?
So it's a $5,000
for everyone.
That's it?
Everybody.
Done and done.
And what it is the idea was there was this injured workers fund, right? Where monies were put into this pot and they have to be able to use it every fiscal year. And now they're saying that there's going to be more monies added to that pot to make it available for individuals. Because, for example, take COVID, and the situation, they're displaced, or maybe they're in Texas, but they're still entitled to it. You can do it online if the school is certified in California. But the great thing about it is that $5,000 comes in handy. So that's an automatic. All the state is looking for is that voucher that has the initials, and they're looking to make sure that that RTW benefit is within that 1 year and has not expired.
Okay, because I thought maybe it was like you might get 100, you might get 1,000, so it's a solid $5,000.
$5,000. I always tell the client, okay, wiggle your left hand. That's the state. $5,000, and on the phone it's really funny. I'm like, are you wiggling? And they're like, really? You want me to wiggle? And then with the right hand, you've got the $6,000 voucher. Now that's not given to you in monies, but interestingly enough, under the $6,000, you've got the $1,000 for the equipment, the $500 for the miscellaneous, and the Voc rehab services are already paid for under that $6,000. So the client never has to go into her pocket or his pocket for a single penny. Everything is paid for underneath that $6,000 voucher.
Maria, I see your hand up over there.
I have a quick question. So we had an incident where an injured worker went back to work, and within like 6 months, they couldn't accommodate her and she was laid off. I've heard that you're able to get a voucher for them if they're not able to, keep their employment for 12 months.
Absolutely correct. Ding, ding, ding. That is absolutely correct. An employer sometimes may say, yeah, we've got a permanent, modified alternate that meets all the criteria, because, they have to respond in a timely fashion. They have to make sure that the job is full-time. They have to make sure it's in comparable salary and wages. They have to make sure it's on a permanent basis. If the employer fails to meet that obligation, then you contact the adjuster and you say, hey, it's not working out. This is not the position. It's not meeting the restrictions. I need this client to get a voucher.
We're getting pretty close to our cutoff here. We've got a couple more questions before we get too extended in our time. Now everyone knows, obviously, using a voc rehab counselor is the way to go. You happen to be a vocational rehab counselor. If they wanted to ask you more questions or send any of their injured workers your way, what does that look like? How can they best get a hold of you?
So listen, here is my contact information. Eric will give you. You'll have my email, you'll have my cell phone number, you'll have the work number for Gemini. He can even add David's number. I've had a lot of clients say, hey, Nadja, are you willing to do a Zoom? Because I'd like to learn more, and I've got a couple of clients that are in my office. Sure. As creative as you want to be. I can do a telephonic, I can do a Zoom, I can do a Q&A. It's completely up to you. I can be as creative as you want. Sometimes I get a client that calls and they're like, hi, my attorney referred you. And I'm like, okay, can I ask your name? And they're like, and the paperwork hasn't even come in yet, but they're so excited and jazzed to, speak to me that I just take their name, I ask them who their attorney is, and start the benefit explanation right then and there. Why am I gonna hold them to, wait until the paperwork is given or give them? No. When I've got them on the line, when you've got them on the opportunity to get them on the line live and direct, that's the perfect time. There's no time like the present. So, I've had a lot of times where we get call-ins, they call myself, they'll call David's direct line, they'll call the Gemini number. It just, whenever and however. The whole idea is to make it as easy. Here's a little secret, and I hate to say this because I don't want to get, but I sometimes, and David will punish me for this, work on weekends. Why? Because sometimes the injured worker is working full time, and they're not able to leave their job to be able to get that explanation in that time that you need to spend with them, get their RTW process and all that. In those cases, if they say, look, I'm working full time, can you talk to me at 7 o'clock in the evening? Sure. let's schedule it.
Excellent.
Yeah, luckily for us,
It's
Nadia is a workaholic a little bit, so.
It's passions.
Oh,
And,
yes, very,
before
it's because, yes, you're passionate, and that's why I really, I know you take great care of all of our injured workers that do reach out to you. One more question from Suzanne. If you have multiple cases with the same client, do you get a voucher on each case?
So if you've been able to get impairment for different body parts, there's no reason. We've seen 3, 4 vouchers. David, what's the maximum amount of vouchers that you've seen on the client?
4, I think 4 is.
Wow, so it's 5,004, wow.
So it's because you've got different body parts in play, there's different impairment ratings. If those are given as separate, then they're entitled to get a voucher for each.
Yeah.
And then I know there were a few people who couldn't make it today. Ellie, I think Valerie couldn't make it from your office. Eric, how soon are we going to be able to send out the recording for the good info?
The recording will actually be ready right after this, I'd say within
Okay.
30 minutes. And then we'll do some fun Geminizing for social media.
So
And
maybe
you'll-
about a week or so till we can send it on out.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, I would give about 7 days.
And I do want to say one more thing. I always get asked, is our team completely bilingual? Yes, absolutely they are. But also because I do speak different languages, and Eric can put those languages up, and you can look on LinkedIn and you can see the ones accredited. But not only do we pay attention to that, but let's say we don't speak that language, and maybe we can find a school where an instructor speaks that language. We even go there to make it as comfortable as possible, to give them every opportunity. Just because they're not entitled to an interpreter doesn't mean that we can't assist them to find some way to be able to function even better.
Yeah.
Just wanted to share that with you because I get that asked all the time.
Yeah, so the overall, motto of Gemini basically and our voucher division is just, being really the injured worker driven, and we totally, go around the servicing for them. And I think that's what makes, our division easy to, talk about, and easy to, try to convince attorneys to reach out to us, because it really is in the benefit of the injured worker. And that's what I know I love, to talk about our voucher department, because I can full-heartedly say that they'll be in great hands and be provided with 100% customer service that your injured worker deserves.
Awesome.
Thank you, Lauren.
Of
Yeah,
course.
thanks everybody. Thanks Eric, Nadia, David. Thanks everyone for joining today. And yeah, you know where to find us. We'll be reaching out because I believe we owe each of you a nice little swag box.
Yes.
for your helping with your time today. We'll drop those off or mail them out as needed. And yeah, any questions, feel free to reach out to myself, Lauren, Nadia, David, you name it. We're here to help.
Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity. Appreciate. Stay safe out there, and virtual hugs to everybody.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Have a great rest of the day, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.